Satsang. Such a beautiful joy and a beautiful gift to be able to be together at this sacred time, and beautiful welcome to all of our family across the world and all of your houses, your rooms, your offices, all of the different places you're joining us from. A beautiful welcome to all of you as well. As we start with a question that's come in from the global audience, and then open it up to any questions that anyone here may have. Why should someone start to believe in God? There's a lot of reasons to believe in God. The first reason is God exists. So our choice of believing or not believing doesn't change the nature of God's existence or God's presence. All it does is limit us. For example, let's say I decide I don't believe in gravity. Okay. I know this Newton guy said it exists, but I just don't believe it. Well, that's my prerogative not to believe it. No problem, nobody should be able to throw me in jail for not believing in gravity. But if I walk off of a building, I'm going to fall to the ground, whether I believe in gravity or not. The law of gravity exists. I can choose not to believe in it, at which point it's very likely that I'm going to spend a lot of my time falling down, or having things that I care about fall down, putting very fragile, expensive items up on, the very, very edge of a top shelf in a place that gets knocked around a lot, and then they fall and they break. So when you think about believing in God, sure, we can say, I don't believe God exists. Okay. It's all right. I don't believe anyone should be thrown in jail or persecuted for believing that or discriminated against. But we end up losing, because when we move through the world not believing in God, then the very truth of existence ends up unavailable for us. Like when we don't believe in gravity, we lose the ability to take care of our own selves, of things that we care about. If we don't believe in God, we lose the ability to access that truth, that higher truth of who we are and what we're here for. So we believe in God, first of all, because God exists, and as long as we are committed to truth, to say we don't believe in something that exists is to separate ourselves from truth. We also believe in God because through the belief in God, it helps us understand who we are. See, if we simply say, you are divine, you are holy, you are full, you are complete, you are divine, you are one with all. Well, that only makes sense if there is a creator of the creation. We are divine not because every one of us individually, as a totally separate, random creation, happens to be this thing called divine that doesn't actually have any foundation. We are divine, meaning the Creator is divine. That capital C Creator, God, by any name, any form, is divine. And the creation has been created not just by the Creator, but of the Creator. And when we've been created of divinity, then by nature, by rule, the core of who we are is divine. It's like saying, do you have to believe in the ocean? Like, let's imagine you're a drop of water. And one drop of water says to the other drop, I don't believe in the ocean. Okay. But then every aspect of your life no longer makes sense. Where did you come from? How did you become a drop of water out of the blue? Well, water is evaporated from the ocean by the sun. Then it gets carried on the clouds, and ultimately it gets dropped as rain or condensation. That's how we end up with drops of water on leaves, on grass, going into rivers. But if there is no ocean, then the existence and the nature of the drop becomes questionable. So if we don't believe in God, then our own truth becomes questionable. Then how are we divine? Where did we come from? And in order to know that you are divine, that you're not just your body, you don't have to believe in God for that. That's an experiential awareness that we develop through practices of meditation, through practices of awareness, through practices of expanding our consciousness. And the minute that we realize I'm not the body, that I am this something else, whether we say soul or spirit or consciousness or love or truth or divinity, whatever word we say, all of those words mean there's something other than just physical bodies. But if there's no God, then what does spirit mean? What do we mean by spirit? Well, what we mean by spirit is that divine essence. What do we mean by soul then? If there is no God, then what are souls? Where'd they come from? Where are they going? Soul has a meaning because of the existence of the divine presence, of which the souls have arisen, like waves arise out of the ocean. If you don't have an ocean, or you say I don't believe in the ocean, then how do you get a wave? Where'd that come from? And so if we don't believe in God, then we lose the very grounding of our own existence, of the truth of who we are. So you don't have to necessarily believe in God in a particular form or by a particular name. But you need to understand that you are not just your physical body. That you're not just the number of years that this body has been in existence. That you're not just the bones and the muscles and the skin and the chemicals and electricity that we call thoughts and emotions. And when we realize that we're not that, then the answer to who we are exists in the awareness of that something else, that capital S something else. And again, it doesn't matter what you call it. Call it source. Call it supreme reality. Call it truth. Call it love. Call it infinite energy. But aware infinite energy. Call it whatever you want. But we have to accept its existence in order to even begin to know who we might be. It would be like saying, I don't believe in my mother. Well, if you don't believe in your mother, where exactly did you come from? How did you get here? And in the same way that we believe in our physical mothers because we understand if I didn't have a physical mother, I couldn't exist. Everybody has different relationships with their mother. We're not saying your relationship must be like this or you must call her that. Engage with her like this. Those are different relationships. But you have to at least believe that you have a mother. Otherwise, you couldn't exist. And in the same way, if we don't believe in God, then we can't exist. Then all we are is the physical body that was pushed out of a womb. And we know that's not who we are, or it's not all of who we are. So the reason we believe in God is the same reason we believe in our mothers, because we know they exist, we know it's true. And the way that we know it exists, if we don't have any other way of knowing, is that we exist. And as long as we exist, well then, you can be pretty sure you had a mother and a father. And you can be pretty sure there's God. The mother and the father explain the color of your eyes and the color of your hair and your approximate body shape and maybe some temperament or talents. And God explains that really which you are, that isn't the body. Does anyone here have any questions? Yes.
How to get over negative patterns?
How to get over?
Negative patterns.
Negative patterns. Patterns of thought or patterns of behavior? Thought, okay. Well, they lead to behavior anyway, so. It's true, whatever we think we end up doing. Negative patterns of thought, it's important to realize it is just a habit. That's all it is. We tend to take these patterns very seriously. Oh, I'm having a negative thought. Cello, let me stop everything. Think about it. Work my way through it. Really dive into the negativity. Well, if you have the same negative thought over and over and over again, yeah, it's helpful to look at what that might be coming from. Why that particular type of thought? If you find that you're always jealous, or that you are always judgmental, or that you're always discriminating, okay, it's good. Let's look at where did it come from. But in general, the patterns of thought in our mind are just habits. Sadly, too many people tend to be negative. When you hang around them, you tend to develop the patterns, especially if they were our parents or our family members or our teachers in school or our friends' circle. We tend to develop patterns of thought, of speech, of behavior that are those that our parents had, that our family members had. The people you spend the most amount of time with tend to be the people whose patterns you adopt. We also adopt negative patterns of thought as a protective measure. If I know in advance that everything is going to go to hell and nothing is going to work and everything's just going to be a problem and no one can be trusted and everyone's against me, well then, when someone betrays me or something I was trying doesn't work, I can say, हाँ हाँ वो तो मुझे पता था. I knew it. And it's a defense mechanism. Because if I really trust and I really love and someone betrays me, inevitably there's some hurt. If I really tried something and it didn't work or it wasn't successful, there's some hurt. If I really had hope and faith in something, it was going to work out, and it didn't, it hurts. And so a lot of times, just to protect ourselves, we become very negative. I'm not going to trust anyone. I'm not going to believe in anything. I've got no hope, no faith. This whole thing is just a sham show. Nothing matters. Well, that's a very self-protective, in a not functional way, mechanism to say, yeah, well, I'm not upset because वो तो मुझे मालूम था कि वो तो है ही ऐसे, वो तो naturally, वो तो ऐसे तो करेगी. Now, it doesn't actually protect us. What it does is it actually ruins every single minute of our life in the illusion that it's going to protect us from the very few moments where something stings. It's actually causing us to be separate, alone, miserable, long before anyone has betrayed us or hurt us, long before something failed, long before something didn't work out. But the ego thinks that it's kind of doing us a favor. But it isn't. It's hurting you. And this is where it's important to say to ourselves, thank you so much. The moment you have another negative thought, you say, thank you so much to the ego. I know you're just trying to protect me. I know you've got my best interest at heart. But you know what? I'd really rather live with an open heart, even if it means I'm going to get hurt sometimes, than to turn my heart into a stone from right now. Because then I'm basically killing myself while I'm alive. I would much rather that sometimes things that are my will don't happen and I have to surrender to a different will. I'd much rather that than that I cut myself off from now, from the incredible exquisiteness of this creation, from the miracles of creation. Because when I stop having faith, I stop being able to enjoy the miracles of creation. What makes a sunset so exquisite, what makes the ocean so deep and profound to watch, or the stars in the sky, is that awareness of our connection to it. But if I'm going to disconnect myself, if I'm going to build a wall of negativity around myself, in this false idea of protection, then I'm hurting myself from right now. Somebody else may or may not hurt me at some later date, but I'm already hurting myself right now. So as the negative thoughts arise, just say to the ego, thanks so much for stopping by, but I don't need that type of protection. I'm going to live with a full and open heart. And when things happen that sting, I'm going to see them as opportunities to let my heart stay open, even when it bleeds. And then what you'll notice is these negative thoughts are simply habits. They're habits like people bite their fingernails or crack their knuckles or twirl their hair. Like different people have different habits, right? They don't even know they're doing it. You say to someone, why do you twirl your hair? They say, well, I'm not twirling. I don't twirl my hair. They don't even realize. It's become so unconscious. And the way that these thoughts are is like that. And so first we bring them into consciousness. And then every time you have one, just change it. So if the thought says, oh, she ruined my work. I was doing this great and then she came in and messed everything up. Instead of that, say, wow, I have this great opportunity to rebuild this work in an even better way than I had done before. I was wondering what I was going to do tomorrow. Now I know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Now suddenly my job is laid out for me. Instead of talking negatively to yourself, because we do it to ourselves as well. Again, in this misplaced effort to protect us. If we say to ourselves, you are stupid, you're never going to become anything, you're worthless, nobody likes you. You're going to always fail. Your life is a waste. Well then, as I do things that fail, I've got this illusion of not being hurt by that. Whereas actually I'm hurting myself every day. And so when these thoughts arise, just give different thoughts. Choose a different thought. When you've got a thought that says you're worthless, instead say, I am divine. If you've got a thought that says you are stupid, instead say, I am brilliant. Just give yourself different ones. And they don't have to always be the same. It doesn't have to be a one-to-one, this is my thought substitution here. But just realize that you have the ability to determine what you think about. There is not another being in your brain controlling your thoughts. I know we think sometimes there is, but there isn't. It's just our own patterns, our own habits. And we have the ability to change that. But you just have to become aware. Every minute, every moment. Tell the ego, thanks for stopping by, but I got this one. I'm actually going to have faith. I'm going to trust. I'm going to see the beauty. I'm going to see the bounty. And when it's about yourself, say, you know what? I've been hearing your voice a little bit too long. You've made me doubt myself for too long. Thanks for stopping by, but I actually have other plans today. It's like somebody shows up at your house just as you're walking out. Somebody you really don't want to see. Someone you want to see, you say, oh, Cello, I'll be late, come on in and have a cup of tea. But someone you don't want to see, even you weren't planning to leave, suddenly you find yourself with your pocketbook, oh, I was just leaving, I'm so sorry. Cello, fir aa jao. Do that with the ego. Oh, thanks for stopping by. I was just on my way out. And slowly, slowly, those thoughts will stop having the impact on you. Yes. Other questions?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Just now you said that we believe in God. If we don't believe in God, we are not able to access our life. So what I would like to say is, whether or not we believe in God or not, He is there with us 24 hours. And He is having unconditional love for us. तो क्या जरूरी है हम God में believe करें या नहीं? Then what is the difference between a human being and God?
So, think about it like this.
And excuse me.
Sure.
And you said that unless we believe in God, we won't be able to know from where we have come, who we are, and where we have to go. That is also His choice, whom He wants to choose, and that particular person will be the person who will understand God. Unless He feels that I want this person to know who I am. That is also His wish, not ours.
So, I don't actually believe that God plays favorites.
It's not the
I
favors. It is that you say He's our parent. So when you say Mama, 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 when you start meditating Krishna, 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 don't you think Krishna will come?
Of course. Now, okay. You've asked a lot of different questions. We'll take them all. No, I mean, they're great, but I just want to divide them because they're different
No, you
points.
said we won't be able to access our life.
I got it. Mujhe yaad hai.
So whether we
Yeah.
believe in Him or not, His love for us is unconditional. Do you think a 2-month baby knows who God is?
ऐसा है. Let me stop. Just because we can continue, but let me take the 3-4 questions you've already asked. फिर हम वहाँ से आगे बढ़ेंगे. ठीक है? Done. So, first of all, she said, we were speaking earlier about why we believe in God, and I was saying that if we don't believe in God, we're not able to access the truth of who we are in terms of that core of where we've come from. So she said, well, that's up to God, not up to us. Now, think about it like this. God is with us, as you say, 24/7, of course. However, think about it like this. The sun is shining, okay? Beautiful sunny day. Sun is there. You are sitting in a dark room with the curtains closed. ठीक है? Now, आपको लाइट नहीं मिल रहा है. ये सूर्य भगवान का दोष है या आपका दोष है?
मुझे लाइट नहीं मिल रहा, मेरी मर्जी से नहीं मिल रहा. Have I put
Meaning?
curtains on my wish?
Meaning, we're taking just the first part. Yes. You say God is with us 24/7. But we have to be willing to believe in order to access that experience. Like the sun is shining. But if our curtains are closed, we are not going to benefit by the presence of the sun. The sun is there. But we will not be able to experience that light in our lives because we have closed the curtain. In the same way, God is there. Of course. That was what I was saying. But if we don't believe, then we're not able to access. It's like if you say to me, the sun is there, open your curtains. And I say, there is no sun. Sun does not exist. And so I refuse to open my curtains. Now the sun is there, of course. But I'm not going to be able to benefit in any way in my life by the presence of the sun, because my curtains are closed. Now that's part 1. Part 2 on a deeper level. You say, well, is it really up to us if we get to know God exists? Only those who God decides will know. They get to know. कि भगवान की मर्जी है, आपने कहा. Now, I don't actually believe that. Here's what I believe. I believe that God is there for all of us and is waiting for all of us to connect. That is the point of this Leela. Meaning, we were all one. There was nothing but God. There still is nothing but God. The core of Vedanta, summed up in one line, is there is nothing but God. So, means we are God. Everything is God. There is nothing but God. We then end up, through this creation of the Shrishti, in a situation where we are in these bodies, with these minds, thinking we are just the story of the body, forgetting that we are one with God, so that we can return to God. All of our scriptures, all of the teachings remind us that the point of our life is to remember who we are, to experience that oneness with God. God is not playing favorites. God is not going, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, you or you. But, just one second. the way that we usually think when we say it's up to God, so we usually say, well, somebody's karma is like this, somebody's karma is like that. God is not up there giving you the karma. God is not up there saying, okay, you will be born into this family, you will have these sanskaras, you will have these experiences, you will know me. And you are going to be born into a different family, have different sanskaras, you will not know me. I don't think God does that. Our own karma from lifetimes gives us different experiences, different situations, in which every chance we have, we are supposed to ask the question, how is this experience, this situation, getting me closer to God? Whatever the moment may be. And that choice is ours. That is why we meditate, it is why we pray, it is why we chant mantra, it is why we do seva, it is why we work to purify our minds. My guru Puja Swamiji always says, sadhana doesn't bring God. God exists all the time. But what sadhana does is it cleans your window so you can see and experience the presence of God. So it's not a matter of Bhagwan ki marjiyo. If it were up to God, I believe every one of us would have this experience as quickly as possible. But in this Leela, when God created the world, there are certain laws of nature. The law of karma is one of them. We're going to have to keep coming back. It's like, think of a school teacher. Well, a school teacher wants everybody in the class to learn what she has to teach so they can go on to the next grade. But if you don't, if you refuse to learn what you've got to learn in 4th grade, they're not going to send you to 5th grade. No matter how hard the teacher tries, no matter how much they want. If you are not able to learn the curriculum of 4th grade, you can't go on to 5th grade. So in the same way, we come back lifetime after lifetime because we're not actually really fully getting it. It's why, as Bhagavan Krishna says in the Gita, I reincarnate in form to bring back light to the darkness. Not just on a global, planetary, universal way, but on an individual way to us, to help us see. So the shastras, the practices of meditation, the practices of yoga, the river Ganga, these do not discriminate. It's not that Ganga decides she's going to purify some people who bathe in her but not others. Unki upar hai. If you go into Ganga with a pure mind and a pure heart and allow her to actually not just clean your body, but to clean your way of thinking, your way of living, your way of identifying, you will be transformed. But if you don't, you won't be. But Ganga's there. And so is God. So every one of us, not only is God there for us, God is there as us. Every one of us is divine. That presence of God is within our own hearts. But we're not able to see it. And that's where it's up to us to make the decision, to do the work, to allow, to be able to see. Yeah. Beautiful. Does anyone else have any questions? Yes.
So how will I know that I've attained moksha? In this life will I know, or after this? And do I have to keep coming back?
Great. How do you know if you've attained moksha? So Puja Swamiji always says, it's not like you grow horns. Because it's actually quite a common question. Well, how do you know if you're enlightened or someone's enlightened or awake or moksha? He always says it's not that suddenly you get horns or you look different. It's like that beautiful, beautiful teaching of the seeker who goes into the jungle looking for this enlightened master. He arrives at this small hut where the master lives. And he knocks at the front door, no one answers. He hears some noise in the back, so he goes around. And in the back, he sees a man who's cutting firewood. And he says to the man, I'm looking for the master, I'm looking for the guru. And the man keeps cutting firewood. And the seeker says, can you help me? I'm looking for the master. Finally, the man stops cutting firewood and he says, some people call me that. And the seeker is amazed, like he's just this man and he's cutting firewood. And he says, you're the master? And he says, well, what are you doing? He says, I'm cutting firewood. And after that, I'm going to go collect water in my bucket. And the seeker's like, this is enlightenment? Cutting firewood, collecting water? And he says to the master, well, what did you do before you were enlightened? And he says, I chopped wood and collected water. And the man says, so what's the point of all of it? And he says, it's not. It's not what you do. It's who is doing it. Before it was I who was cutting the firewood, chopping the firewood and collecting the water. Now, wood is being chopped. Water is being collected. It's just a change in the experience of the who and the experience of the how. How are we doing things? And who is doing them? There's a very famous book by a beautiful meditation teacher from America called First the Ecstasy, Then the Laundry. And I love it because, I love the book as well, but the title is just so perfect. It's by Jack Kornfield, because it's not, oh, I'm enlightened, and then suddenly my laundry just, does itself. I become enlightened and I develop these powers, and suddenly, give me a pair of clean socks, and it just arrives in front of me. You know that you are free. Moksha means freedom. You know that you've attained it when you're no longer stuck. When you no longer are a slave in any way, shape, or form at any time to your own past habits or patterns or identities, to the ego, to desires, to fears, to attachments. Doesn't mean you don't live. You absolutely live, but you live free. Because you're not stuck. Most of us spend most of our lives very stuck. We're stuck in the games of the mind. We're stuck in the grass is always greener game, right? What that one has is better than what I have. Right? Everything always tastes better from someone else's plate. Right? You go to a restaurant, someone that you're eating with orders something, you taste it, it's great, much better than what you've ordered. Next time you order what they ordered, but amazingly it doesn't taste nearly as good. It's when they ordered it. So even in just little ways, but also, of course, in the big ways. As long as there's something wrong with this moment, you're not free. When you're free, you'll know it. Not because your wood will chop itself or your laundry will fold itself, but because you will chop wood and collect water and fold laundry as a free being. Not thinking, oh my God, I cannot believe the stupid maid did not show up today. Didn't she know I needed some clean socks? Because there's no difference between you and the maid. You're one. So the what stays very similar, the who and the how changes drastically. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. And a beautiful morning and day, afternoon to our family joining us from around the world. And I look so forward to seeing all of you tomorrow. So much love to you all.